You're legally obligated to tell us you're recording.
There it goes. That's why it's there, right? It's
I
like
know.
Yes.
you're being recorded. Did you guys you know what I was looking for online I didn't find? If I find it, it'll be the intro in this episode. If I find it in the editing stage. Do you remember when TV specials would come on, especially in the holidays? They would have the word special and it would go and it would spin in the screen and then the show would start. Do you remember
Yes.
this?
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
remember back in the day when you didn't always know what was going to be on, and it was like, oh, it's Charlie Brown's Christmas. Oh, we didn't even know that was on tonight, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a
Well,
long time ago.
imagine not knowing when. No. I mean, even the phrase "not knowing when something's on" has no
Right.
meaning anymore, right?
Right.
It's like it's on now. If I go click,
Yeah.
right? I have to remember that. I have to remember it's Wednesday for new episodes of She-Hulk or Willow, but other than that,
Well, the
or-
phrase "when is something on" is no longer applicable. Even not just
Right.
not
Right.
knowing when something's on. It's just having something on at a specific time. My kids
Right.
can't compute that. So,
Yeah,
Right,
that's
now
a crazy concept. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's is there a new ... instead
Yes.
of
right.
when
Yeah, and
is
that's
what
only
on.
for and that pisses people off too, though, when they're like, "Why is this only being released once a week?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to binge Andor, and there are people that wait, and you should binge Andor, by the way, anyone listening. But people are like, I'm gonna wait. The people wait until the whole thing's out so they can binge it because we're so used to consuming content that way.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'll wait
fewer and
10
fewer
weeks
things
to watch Severance or whatever.
fewer and fewer shows, and I've noticed have stopped dropping all the episodes at once.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if it's a way to create loyalty or what, but
well, it makes it harder you have to coordinate a lot better to sign up for a service, watch a bunch of stuff, and then cancel it the next
delete
month.
the app.
Yeah.
That's
Well, it also
true.
spreads out the wait time between the seasons, because if you're
Right.
dropping them all, people watch them in a week, and then they have a whole year to wait till the next one. At least this way
that's
you
why
get a couple months of it spread
That's a
across.
good point. Yeah.
I don't mind it for that reason.
Yeah.
Actually, but,
Yeah.
Saves us from ourselves.
yeah, and it does give you something to look forward to when there's something that you're watching, like with the family or whatever. And this episode of the podcast is about how we groundbreakingly, I think we got the idea from someone else, but we groundbreakingly engineered this technology using only one. Well, actually, I think it was 2 or 3 VHS tapes.
Oh,
If I
yes.
remember.
Yeah.
It
ended up being 3, I think.
3 in the end. Some worked better than others.
Yeah.
I remember. So what we did was we'd read the TV guide and/or just guess and just luck into something that was on, like I said, and we'd be like, "Oh, quick, get the Christmas special tape." And I think we spent 2 or 3 Christmases taping everything, and then we added to it. That's why it got up to 3. But
Right.
I remember the whole point was to be able to sit down and watch them all in a couple nights that we would pick, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that was fun
yeah.
because it's kind of that on-demand thing, but instead of having, like does anybody remember? I mean, obviously we remember going to Blockbuster or whatever, but if you ever
Yeah.
wanted to see like a specific thing, like How the Grinch Stole Christmas, that thing's like less than 20 minutes, right? That program. Excellent short film, obviously, award-winning and yada yada.
Right.
But
sure.
you'd go and pay, $13 to rent just that at Blockbuster, or wait until it was on.
Right.
It was so expensive to rent VHS videos. People don't remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
Comparatively, yeah.
Right. And $13 back then was like, over, a lot of money. So.
$1,000 now. Point. No, that's what a car went for back then.
Close. That was more than a tank of gas. So.
That's true.
I know that's depressing.
No, I remember I had kids before Blockbuster closed. I'm trying to think if either of you did.
Yeah.
And either of you had
But
the experience of taking
no.
your kids to Blockbuster? Yeah.
Not that I remember.
No,
No, we had
but
Netflix by the time that we had kids. So, you know,
Yeah.
we're the next era.
but my point is, like, even if you did seek out a specific one and rent it, it was just
Where are
that
you gonna
one.
find
Like,
it?
like you could
Yeah.
rent Mickey's Christmas Carol, and it had Ichabod Crane for some reason. They were like on the same tape.
Right, you're exactly right,
you know,
because they were short, and so they had to. The only way to see the Grinch, I think, was to rent something that also had either Horton Hears a Who or
right,
and
exactly.
the old
Yeah,
one,
they're all combined.
and
Yeah.
Dr. Seuss's Fright Night, which was just a special where the Cat and the Hat and the
Oh
Grinch interacted with
yeah,
each other for some reason.
yeah.
Yeah.
The library was the only other alternative. So often we would get those little short ones from the library. But the stroke of genius, which I'm pretty sure was you, Dwight, was recording them all on our own master copy on VHS, and then we had our holiday sleepover night in the.
That's right.
We would usually
Put
do
out
it
the sleeping bags.
leading up to Christmas, yeah, instead of on
Right.
Christmas Eve. So
And
Well,
I think
because
we
of
always yeah.
because of that, I feel like we had those specials memorized much more than normal children because we watched them every year, the exact same one.
Yes.
yeah,
it wasn't
all
like,
of
oh, I
them.
missed Rudolph this year. It's like, nope, Rudolph's coming up next.
Yep, never missed it.
That's right.
Usually with that triple chambered tin of popcorn that we got from
Oh yeah.
every
Yes.
year. We'd sit there.
Well, we'd be eating the one from the year prior still when we were watching the Christmas
especially the
specials.
cheese. Okay,
and the-
now everybody out there, I know cheese popcorn is very popular with some people, but yeah, that was the one that lasted the longest, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
No,
probably.
the butter lasted the longest. At least the cheese had some flavor. The butter just tasted like yellow.
I haven't had one of those in so long. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
get one after this.
I was
if
tempted to
they're
buy
better.
one the other day just out of nostalgia as
Me
I passed through the
too.
grocery store.
Yeah.
But I remember they did. I mean, I can make better popcorn at home, but you know, something about having that tin just feels
It
like
is.
Christmas.
I don't
Absolutely.
know. Yeah, it's just a weird memory. But so one of the dynamics that you already mentioned was getting to know the specials so well. The other dynamic that I have noticed is that I tend nowadays, it's getting more to where almost everybody if you go to like a Facebook fandom group, you're going to find people who know what everything is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for a long time, and still when I'm talking to like just normal people or whatever, I know about a lot of Christmas specials that most people have never watched and don't know exist.
Yeah.
Do you guys find this?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I had a conversation the other day. I was we were putting together some Christmas crafts with some friends anyway, and we were talking around the table about Christmas specials. And I started talking about the claymation Christmas special about the life and adventures of Santa Claus.
There you go.
And
That's the one. That's the
no
one.
one had ever heard of it, of course.
Yeah.
And
that's the
as
one.
I'm describing what it is, I realize that I'm sounding like I'm either crazy or very confused because it's this mashup of like mythology and fairy tales. But yeah, there are several that pop up that people are like, you sure that's
Which also exists in the Oz universe. It's not only it's based
Yes.
off a book by L. Frank Baum, but
Right.
Santa Claus exists, and he's referenced in some. People don't realize he wrote like 20 Oz books or something, and they're like, yeah, he lives on the other side of the magic desert that turns you into sand. And even, I mean, it's the
And
same as when I talk about
Right.
Return to Oz, right? It's like, it's the kind of thing my kids are like, what? Are you making this up?
It's like
Sounds insane.
the origins of Santa Claus. You know, everybody's seen the Tim Allen movie or whatever, but no, obviously the great Ock convened a council and
Yes.
bestowed immortality upon him. That's the origin of Santa. Come on.
Yeah, it takes it all the way from Santa as a kid up to when, and
Yeah.
I think in that version
Yeah.
he invents the concept of toys too. He
I
carves a
think
little
so.
Yes.
duck or something,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, let's call it a toy."
A
Why?
toy.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Don't dwell.
And the thing is too, that's the part that always comes to my mind is the
See,
song.
like, all the
all the
listeners are gonna
immortals
be
coming in.
clueless too. You guys gotta go to YouTube and watch it.
Yeah, go and check it out. It's I was actually looking for it last night, and you can get it on Amazon, I think, but you have to sign up for some channel. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just buy it anymore. And then it used to be fully on YouTube. Now I think it's in chunks. But
Oh yeah, exactly.
the big
Some
life
of
and
them-
adventures, big life and adventures of Santa Claus. Big Frank Baum Corporation took it down, probably.
Yeah.
Big L Frank. So L Frank Jr. I don't know who's in charge of the Oz rights anymore. But yeah, no, that one, if nobody has seen it, the funny thing is that I liked it. It looks like a Rudolph special. And it has all these weird immortal creatures. The opening was my favorite when they all come in to this grand council. And as you mentioned, at the end of it's going to be the end of Santa's life. He's old now, and he's crafted and made this tradition of going out and giving, presents to everyone. And since they're like, tonight's the night, he's going to die. Somehow we know that, and because we're magic. And they had to decide, should we give this mortal the gift of immortality?
Well, they
And
only
they're all
had
like,
one
"What?"
extra mantle. They only had
That's
one
right.
extra mantle of I'm like, I don't know
It's
where
limited.
it came from. I'm sure the book goes into greater detail, but
I think it's H&M.
yeah. Well, they were, there used to be fewer H&Ms back then. But
nowadays you can just grab an immortal mantle just at the gas station.
Right. I actually learned from watching the making of Elf. Have you guys watched the documentary about the making of Elf?
No.
Because if you're big Elf fans, it's so fun to watch, especially with what's his name, who made Elf has become. I mean, he's gone on to Marvel and Star Wars and everything. What's his name? The guy who made The Mandalorian.
Oh yeah. You're talking about Favreau or Brent
Favreau. Yeah.
Favreau. That's the football player. Yeah.
Anyway, this was his break. This was his start because he was obsessed with making this movie, and apparently the animation company that made the stop motion on all those Christmas specials is called Rankin Bass.
Rankin Bass. Yeah.
And he just wanted to bring that into his story so bad, and it's a long story about them running a line about infringing on copyright and stuff. But ever since Elf came out, all the Rankin Bass specials became really more and more popular, and that's why you can't find them on YouTube anymore. So like they were all out there because they were just these silly little Christmas specials. But then they realized, they could probably make some money if they licensed it out instead of just letting people watch it.
I don't have to watch that. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they do briefly use at the beginning of Elf, right? Yeah, because the snowman is like a take.
Right, but they never paid. They never paid for the rights, so they had to like ever so slightly. They went in with CG and changed some of the colors of the outfits and stuff because they were afraid of getting sued. So anyway,
they took out when he sang "Holly Jolly Christmas" or whatever. The Ugly Bug Ball. That's a deep cut for people. From the film Summer Magic. And I was going to mention a couple others that people haven't heard of, but I just realized the other thing that I've also noticed, which is there's many specials that if we didn't happen to capture them on these VHS tapes, I have no knowledge of. Like there's the one it's a Rankin Bass, and there's the two misers or whatever they're called, Mr. Sun and Mr. Winter or something, and there's a Rudolph and Frosty. That's a Rankin Bass thing. And I tried to watch that one once. I got a little turned off. There was a part where Frosty had to watch his children melt to death. I think they probably came back later, I assume, but I think
there's usually some magic at the end. There was the Jack Frost. That was one of the only ones I didn't like. It was so long and tedious. I liked some of the songs, but it was
very long.
Yeah,
that one was on Amazon a couple years ago for free to view, and so I think my oldest watched it, my oldest son, and I didn't realize how long it was as a kid until
Right.
sitting through it as an adult. And
Yeah.
I realized, my goodness, this tells a whole
Because
tale.
Rudolph is really long, but you're kind of into it because at least it's like a traditional classic that everybody knows. But like Jack Frost, I don't know.
It's also about Christmas,
Right?
whereas Jack Frost opens on Groundhog Day.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that one. And everybody listening, if anyone out there is listening, you should know that we were completionists with this video. We did not skip. I don't know. I mean, very rarely do I remember skipping anything. I do clearly remember the dynamic of what's next. I don't remember. Oh man, it's this one.
Right.
And Jack Frost was always one of those.
Yeah, but we watched it anyway.
Hour we're gonna be stuck watching Jack Frost becoming human because he liked a girl, I think.
I can't remember.
Well, that's
and
funny
Kubla
because
Klaus collecting the coins.
Kubla Klaus.
He was a Russian Cossack with a
king of
robot
all the
horse.
Cossacks. Yeah.
Yes, the king of the Cossacks with a robot horse. And the thing is, it's like describing it not only sounds insane, it sounds like it might be interesting, which is the biggest risk if you're hearing me describe this.
That's true.
Don't fall for that.
For some reason, where he was ruling, everybody had left. So he was the only person in the kind of like that character in Paw Patrol, the Mayor Humdinger, where there's like nobody that he's in charge of. He just calls himself the king of the Cossacks.
Right. And I remember the people loved Jack Frost. And this also was a feeling I remember getting at the movie Rise of the Guardians, which is much better than Jack Frost, which is a good movie. But they both, it brings up this feeling of like everybody talking about Jack Frost. And do you believe in Jack Frost? Do you not believe in Jack Frost? And it's like, when did Jack Frost become someone that we thought was real?
Exactly.
Well,
I thought he was just a term.
It was filled with very odd references. I mean, being about Jack Frost, being introduced by the groundhog on Groundhog's Day, it's very obviously written by someone who likes kind of unique and off the beaten path traditions rather than the mainstream.
And the music was bad. That's the other thing about it. It was not good or pleasing to listen to.
Yeah.
I remember
in your head, but it wasn't good.
I remember they would take icicles, and that's the reason they love Jack Frost is because Kubla Klaus took all their money. They would get icicles and they would cut them into ice coins and spend them as if they were money.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And Buddy Hackett was the groundhog. So
that's true. Yeah.
True.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. February 2, Groundhog's Day.
Song that gets stuck in your head the worst.
Yeah.
And they tried to work. His name is Pardon Me, Puxatawny Phil, or Pardon Me Phil.
Pardon me, Pete.
And he said, "Oh, yeah, that's right." But you don't find that out at first. He just goes. He says it once. Pardon me, and it's like, oh, that's his catchphase. It isn't. That's so funny.
Well, he's not in most of it, so he can't have too much of a catchphrase.
Yeah, he's only in the beginning. But it is, and there's a brief moment where it's like, hey, it's Christmas. And in that town, all the people pretended to give each other presents. And they were like, wow. And there's a whole song about this is just what I wanted.
Song.
I'm going to.
Yes.
Just what I always wanted. A Christmas surprise. These things stay with you, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to
You
pretend
never
to put
get
on
that part of your brain back.
So guess what I watched yesterday on YouTube was and I'm really interested to see if you guys remember this because I did not remember the correct name of this special. The Wish That The Wish That Changed Christmas. That's what it was. Yeah.
Wish That Changed
Which
Christmas.
one was that?
Was that one of the newer ones? Was it a cartoon?
It was not. It was newer. I mean, it was newer in the 1980s and 90s.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's not a classic. Let's put it that way. Holly and Ivy is what I thought it was called.
That's
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I was going to bring that one up if you didn't. Yeah, because that was one of the later ones we recorded.
Yes, and we were like, what is this? Yeah.
I'm surprised it's even on YouTube because I never saw it again except on the VHS tape that we recorded it.
That's the thing. It's one of those you almost am like, did that exist?
Right.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was a little bit Do you guys know that kid's book Corduroy?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Corduroy
A
the
little
Bear.
bit
Yeah.
corduroy, a little bit
Rock and roll.
the Christmas toy, a little bit, it like
Mhm.
combined all these elements,
Oh, we
but
got to
it was
talk about
it
the
was
Christmas
pretty
toy.
good for like a
I actually forgot about the Christmas toy. Oh, but it was actually kind of touching. I'll just say on the it's for anybody who wants to Google it, it's the wish that changed Christmas. It's a orphan girl named Ivy who gets off of a train. She's traveling by herself for some reason. She has to get off. She gets off the train by accident or by happenstance. It's actually a little bit of the narrator is the Christmas tree salesman in town who is the magical character. You could guess what kind of trope and what race it was.
Right.
But and he like tripped the town constable, so he pulled out these Christmas lights that said "Welcome, Ivy," and she's like, "Maybe I have a grandmother here," and which she's a kid, so you forgive. And then there's these living toys in the toy store. This sounds worse than Jack Frost, but it's actually better.
It's much better.
There's a doll named Holly who's a Christmas doll, and there is an owl played by Jonathan Winters.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I forgot it was
about the
Jonathan
owl.
Winters.
And he spends the whole
Yes.
time taunting this doll where she's like, I hope someone buys me and takes me home, maybe a little girl. And of course, the destiny, I won't spoil it for anyone, but let's just say it has a happy ending. And so there's this moment of the girl looking through the window, but the owl, every time the doll talks, he's like,
Yes.
no one's gonna buy you.
No one's gonna buy you.
He had a really high creepy factor when I was a small child.
Absolutely.
That
Yes.
He was scary, yeah.
And then
he was also
apparently they're yes, absolutely. And they're going to be put into storage until next Christmas, which is a bad business model if you have a toy shop, by the way. And he's like, I'll be in storage with you.
yes.
And then when the kid, and this is what the good part, I mean, the where there's all these stories that intersect, and there's this little boy who works at the toy store, and the toy store owner trusts him to lock up, but he can't find the key, but Ivy helps him, and she ends up being adopted by some people in the town, and it's just, and it was quite touching. But one of the parts that one of the only parts I remembered that I loved was when the kid who works at the toy store is like, oh yeah, he said I could take a toy for my Christmas bonus. I like the train set, but I want to get this doll for that girl who helped me find the key. So, which is once again, heartwarming. He takes the doll off the shelf, or he's about to, and the owl physically attacks him, fights with him. He throws it into a barrel and puts the lid on the top and says, well, that was weird. That was more than weird.
I remember that.
Yes.
It's like, that was weird.
Not gonna mention that to anybody, but
whatever.
Who's gonna open that barrel? Here's the homicidal owl toy in there. And apparently for no good reason, it's one of those things where someone's like, well, we need an antagonist, right? Why? Do we need an antagonist in this story? Isn't the antagonist life because she's an orphan? No, we need an evil owl. All right,
yeah.
So, played by Jonathan Winters.
That's right.
Who better?
How to get that guest star?
I'd recommend it if people want to YouTube it. Yeah.
But the thing is, networks would always put out new ones, and that was one of the few that I think was worth saving. And we didn't always record the new ones because every year some of them were just terrible. But
I'll mention before we dig into the Christmas toy. I'll just mention real quick the 12 Days of Christmas, the one that was all the characters were bears that had never appeared anywhere else. That one's on YouTube also.
I vaguely remember that. I think we recorded those two in the same year. Yeah, if I recall.
Yeah.
Bill Hartman was the voice of the main guy, the main bear in that one. He was the only really recognizable name in it. But yeah.
So you're a little older than us, so you have a better, a little bit clearer memory of some of these.
I looked it up on IMDb.
But like, my favorite was always the claymation Christmas.
With the California
And
raisins.
the California raisins.
Yes.
And I
It's a
don't think
good
it's
one.
actually called a Claymation Christmas, but that'll get you there if you're looking for that. But
It is.
the
It's something.
music
It's
from
somebody's
that is
name.
actually really good. And every year I watch the penguin skating with the
Oh,
walruses
yes.
just to make me laugh because it still is hilarious to this day. But a lot of
Yes,
those
I
are
always
really
look that
well
one
done.
up.
Yeah,
That
they
is a
have
great one.
like they have like they're each song that they do is like a either comedic, or a few of them are just actually like "Oh Christmas Tree" is a beautiful little tribute to that song.
That's
Where I
true.
remember
Yeah.
they close
Yeah.
in, the camera goes through this home with a Christmas tree, and it hones in on this one ornament that's a little house, and it goes in the window, and it's like Santa's workshop, and then it closes in on their Christmas tree and goes to this next house, and it was really cool. Yeah, and then a lot of them were quite funny too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a funny one that no one remembers. That's one of the ones that surprises me, that when I mention it, people are like, "Oh, I remember when the California Raisins were on commercials," but
Yeah.
and then they did this Christmas special, and that's all, I think. But
Right.
I'm sure there's got to be
And
something
then,
out there.
well,
Yeah.
they did a lot of stuff. But then there was the Garfield Christmas special, which I was the only Garfield fan, but I made you guys watch it. But at least it was short.
I remember
It,
that.
it
I
was
think I liked
fun.
Garfield more
Yeah.
than you think I did.
Oh, okay.
I
I
don't think
even
any of us had
remember-
anything against it. You know,
Yeah.
I think we all willingly enjoyed that one.
I used to watch Garfield and Friends on Saturday mornings, so there you go.
Yeah.
That's my
True.
cred. I even remember Lyman, the John's Odie's original owner, who disappeared mysteriously from the store.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
So let's sit on well, one of the ones that I remember looking forward to when it would come on was The Christmas Toy, which is a Jim Henson. And I find it funny because we did not get Emmett Otter on this VHS tape, from what I remember.
That's true.
I remember
No, we
seeing
didn't.
it, but
Yeah.
so I always remember The Christmas Toy, and everybody always remembers Emmett Otter as the Jim Henson Christmas special. Emmett Otter,
Right.
I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
so we watch all the Muppet ones every year, and
Mhm.
like with my son, and the Emmett Otter. So I've come reacquainted with it, but I like I think the Christmas Toy is better. I love Emmett Otter, and the music's great, but I think the Christmas Toy is actually a more. I mean, it's kind of gut wrenching. It's kind of a really.
It's
It is.
absolutely
Deep
terrifying
story.
in some points.
Yeah, right.
It's
I
a-
mean, there's death.
The stakes
and
are very high.
resurrection,
Yeah,
And,
it's
right.
you know, it's
very
crazy.
emotional. Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
constructed in such a way. It's a living Toy Story. In fact, speaking of Toy Story, it seems to be what if I'm being generous, I could call a spiritual precursor to Toy Story.
Yeah, right.
If not something that someone's watched and said, "Hey, I could make a movie."
I could take
But-
that fish out of water space character and
Yeah,
incorporate it into
exactly
my
right.
story.
It's the same.
Exactly.
It's even got that. There's a nursery full, or it's actually a playroom. Thank goodness for the toys. It's
Mhm.
not in the room where the kids sleep, because then they could never move. In this reality, the toys are just like in Toy Story. They have some rule against moving in front of people, but there's stakes involved. Whereas in Toy Story, they can apparently choose to, because they do in the first movie, move in front to scare the evil kid, or the evil kid who likes to blow up his GI Joes. That's his great evilness.
Yeah.
But
Right.
anyway, in this one, if they are found somewhere where they were not left, whether or not the person knows that they were not left there, they die. I mean,
Yeah,
what do they
They're
call it?
Frozen
frozen
for all
forever.
There you go.
Yeah.
They're frozen forever. Yeah. And they do come back to life. The dead, sorry, spoiler alert, for this 50-year-old. No, it's probably 30 years old, right? But they
No.
do come back to life, as you put it. There's like a resurrection time. It's not overtly talked about,
Yeah.
but they do come back to life at the end. But the construction of the story does not necessarily lead you to believe that will happen.
Oh no.
No,
No,
those children
no,
shows
you're
you
convinced. Yeah, as you're watching, you're
Mew-
convinced that it is it. That is
And
it for
then-
those toys.
Right, exactly. When Mew comes back and he describes death and what it felt like.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Well, and there's that song, which I remember
Yes.
even as a kid, the song they sing, that the little tiger sings when the cat toy Mew gives his life to save everyone. It's like heart-wrenching. Like I remember
Very
crying while he
emotional.
sang that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's about old
Yes.
friend, dear friend,
Yeah, I still
friend
cry.
who has gone away.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be in an emotionally healthy, like mental space to watch that movie because
Right.
it's very good, but it will just like wreck you if you're, like on the edge.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And no one remembers. That's one of the ones that even with all the fandom online, I rarely bump into anyone who has heard of it. In fact, I don't know if I ever have.
It was on Netflix briefly, like maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. It was up one Christmas, and that's the only time I've ever seen it anywhere.
You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy that one on Amazon.
Okay.
The one that is impossible to find is actually the one that that song was written for, Muppet Family Christmas.
Muppet Family Christmas.
You cannot find that.
It's on YouTube. It is
It
on
is on
YouTube.
YouTube.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
But-
it is. We watch it on YouTube every year, but you can't
Yeah.
legally find it anymore.
Right. No, and that's the funny thing. I was actually reading an article about Muppet Family Christmas, which I really suggest everybody looks up if you have
Absolutely.
not seen it, even if you have seen it. Which is one that nobody hardly anybody remembers
Right.
that. I had someone mention it the other day, and I about had a stroke. I was like, oh my gosh, I love that one. It's where they go it's the premise is the Muppets go surprise Fozzie's mom at her farmhouse and say, we're going to spend Christmas with you. She is already, even though they didn't call it Airbnb back then, but she's rented her house out coincidentally to Doc and Sprocket from the Fraggle Rock TV show. And she's planning to go on vacation for the holidays, and she's super stoked. So it's automatically Muppet humor. That's very Muppet style humor.
Yeah.
They build a snowman that comes to life and is funny. Oh, and there's ice on the stoop of the door, and literally every time
Watch
someone
the
comes in
ice,
the
you
door,
pants.
they watch the ice and they slip and fall, and it's hilarious. If you're into the Muppets,
Spoiler.
but the reason that it that it hasn't been more available apparently has to do with they sing so many Christmas songs in it, and they have a whole scene where like the Sesame Street Muppets are there with the normal or whatever, the Muppets, and the Fraggles are there at some point.
Yeah.
And
There's
there's
the
one part where
caroling
they're
at the end.
where they're just in the front room by the fire and they sing like 5 or 6 Christmas songs in a row.
Yeah.
So it's a great show, but the rights to some of those songs complicated putting it out because I'm sure they must not have gotten the rights, I guess.
Maybe someday they'll be in the public domain.
That's right.
The same reason why, I mean, kind of one of the reasons why they didn't have that song on Muppets Christmas Carol that they're just now putting back in, the song where his old former fiance is singing about the love is gone.
Right.
Was struggles over the rights, and also they couldn't find a good enough copy of it to digitally enhance.
Well, that was part of it. Yeah, they had
Yeah.
it was always in the deleted scenes, but
On the DVD,
yeah,
right?
yeah, but
Which streaming doesn't give us the option for that anymore. It seems like
No, it was on the old VHS copy that we had as kids.
right.
it sure was.
That was
yeah.
the special longer version, and it had the extra songs.
It was in the theaters, but they took it out.
Yes.
But I remember seeing it we saw it in the theater when it was still in. So
Yeah.
there you go, everybody. Wow. Which I mean, and then there were the classics, obviously, Frosty and Rudolph and Rudolph's Shiny New Year.
Speaking of which, the sequels, there were subsequent sequels to Rudolph and Frosty, but Frosty the Snowman is one that I cannot watch now. It drives me bonkers. I can't sit through it. The story is horrendous, and the acting.
You just keep siding with the evil magician.
I'm like, oh
No,
man!
just
And then that one was narrated by Jimmy Durante. And do you remember the sequel was narrated by Andy Griffith?
Yeah, Frosty's Winter Wonderland.
Yeah, and but the first one, well, I haven't even tried to watch the sequel, but I don't know why it really gets under my skin. And there was one year that Magnus wanted to watch it, and we watched it, and then he somehow got terrified of it. So I've never had to watch it since, but
Somehow Christian's
not a
whispering to
fan.
him.
Yeah.
Not a fan. Yeah, I'm like,
as he
he's
sleeps.
gonna get it. No, but that
Rusty's
magician
gonna
guy is
get
creepy,
ya.
right? Why is the
Yeah.
magician so obsessed with these children? It's like,
Yeah,
ugh.
he needs that magic hat so he can apparently
wow.
do something with it that isn't clear.
But it was
And
his
then
hat.
once again,
It was his hat. Yeah, they did steal it. That was one of the
Like-
flaws in the story.
Once
It's hard
again-
to root for the kids.
it
And he
does
was like,
include a
wait, it's
scene-
really magic? It's like,
Yeah.
man, you're a terrible person.
And now I'm gonna kill this thing that came to this fully formed personality on this snowman, by the way. And instead
Right.
of being like, oh my gosh, a snowman's alive, he's like, I just
Yeah.
want to take his hat so he'll die. But
Yeah.
and then once again, it has the very charming element of watching your new best friend die in front of you as
Right.
he melts.
Yeah.
So
The
It's
common
a
theme
common
in there.
theme, Matt. Yeah.
Right.
now,
Okay,
I'll say
We don't have a
I'll
lot of
say, though,
time. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
I was just gonna say I actually don't mind either of the Frosties.
Oh, okay. But we
whatever.
don't have a lot of time. We have to talk about. We watched some weird ones too. The Smurfs, the Care Bears,
He-Man.
the He-Man. Like,
Oh, He-Man.
there were some weird ones on there, and
Everything had a Christmas special back then. Like
yeah,
every cartoon had a Christmas special.
Didn't it matter if it was on an alien planet? I mean, it didn't matter if it was in another dimension, you know.
Yep.
I once in a while see nowadays they'll do like a winter holiday on, you know, the moon or something. Whereas like, yeah, He-Man, I tried to watch the He-Man Christmas special a few years ago with the kids, and this is a while ago, and it's just so bonkers. You've got like,
Yeah.
And on the Smurfs, I remember it was like the same story, but except instead of Hordak trying to kidnap the children, it was the devil. That's the thing
it
about the
was
Smurfs.
the actual
Yeah,
devil.
they go for it in the Smurfs.
Not
yeah.
even Mephisto or something. It was the devil. Yeah.
Yeah. They're trying to shield
I
it.
think he called himself the evil one, but still, it was pretty
He was
clear who he
clearly,
was talking
you
about.
know, I mean,
He's like raising fire.
A ring of fire.
Yeah,
Yes.
to like freaking.
Yes.
My favorite
Yeah.
memory of the Smurfs Christmas is when they have to sing the Smurfs little song. It's not a Christmas song. It's goodness makes the badness go away.
yes.
And he's like, oh, and he's suffering because they're doing it. But my favorite memory is Gargamel, where like Papa Smurf or the kids or someone is like, you got to help us. We need one more voice to put it over the, you know, magic Christmas meter.
Right.
And, no, I made that part up, but they want him to sing. And Gargamel's like, goodness makes the badness go away. Yuck, phooey. I can't believe I'm saying these words. As if goodness is poison. The word goodness is poison to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't take it.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about
Oh.
long ones. The Care Bears was a long, or at least felt like a long special. It was
That's
the
right. I
Nutcracker,
forgot
right?
about that.
It was based on the
Nutcracker.
Nutcracker,
Yeah.
and they like fit every reference in, which the Nutcracker is not a short story. But yeah, that one was another where it came on, and you were like, "Oh man, we're gonna be here
No.
for a while."
And that show that, yeah, that would be one that would come up and would be like, oh boy. Although I remember I liked that one. And it's a good example of what people don't remember about the Care Bears is like the Care Bears fight the Mouse Army in this Nutcracker special. And there's like Lionheart. I remember chucks one of them off a train. I mean, people forget the Care Bears were involved in battle with the forces of evil, and they, you know, have their tummy lasers, the Care Bear stare, where they'd blast people for not caring enough.
Oh
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The Care Bears were tough.
The Care Bears in general, it was never clear who they were targeting as an audience. You know, it's like
Yeah.
True for so many things in the 80s and 90s. When you rewatch something and you're like, what was this meant? What?
Yeah. We were
Why did
allowed
they
to watch
do
this as children.
Yeah. And you only had PG and R back then. So it was like, I guess that's PG enough. They should have called it PG enough, because you'd always have something. And when I rewatch those with my kids, now that they're the two oldest, or some teenagers will pull out some of those things from back then and say, oh, let's watch this. Oh, I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
What is that doing in there? You know, or you pull out, I still haven't had the guts to sit down and watch Back to the Future. Because just when I described the plot with the mom thing and everything, my kid's like, nope, not interested. Hard pass. Well, I know we gotta wrap up, but are there any Christmas specials that have come out since then that you guys like? I'll just say I'll vamp for a second so you can think. I really like Snowy Day. That's one on Amazon that's come out in the last few years. Off the book, The Snowy Day. So that one's really good.
I like it's a movie, but like full length. But the new Grinch, the computer animated Grinch with Benedict Cumberbatch, I really like it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We just watched that for the first time this year.
Oh, good.
Yeah, with the kids, and it was surprisingly really good because I've always been like really partial to the original.
Me too.
But I enjoyed it a lot. Even though it was new words, it still kept to the feeling.
It blew me away because I had very low expectations, especially after the Jim Carrey mess in the 90s. But
which was a war crime, I think, in some of the areas.
The fact that he's
or the war on Christmas, am I right? No, just kidding.
Literally, that one and the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat made this Dr. Seuss estate say they could never make another live action Dr. Seuss movie. So
yeah, which is at least they won't try.
That's true.
Been that was better since then. Yeah, the animated ones for some reason are better. It's like the aesthetic matters when it's Dr. Seuss for some reason.
Anyway, so yes, I recommend that one.
Okay, good deal. Well, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Thanks for listening and letting us jaw on about our Christmas special experience. Anybody, if you want to reach out, what kind of Christmas specials do you like? Hit me up on all the social media places, or don't. That's fine either way. I don't want to tell you how to live your life. But happy holidays, and thank you guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Oh, wow. They actually left. They just left. Well, for those of you Patreon fans who are watching this part, I just want to wish you an extra Merry Christmas. You get the video. I am going to make this video available on the regular feed as well. I'm not sure if I'll leave this part in or not. So this may not be the unedited classics that y'all are used to. Or it might be. Who knows? I don't know what I'll do. I don't want to tell myself how to live either. Y'all have a wonderful time before I hit the Zoom stop on this bonus Jonas part. Bye-bye.